You ever stand barefoot on a weathered dock that still carries the ghost of your wife's laughter? Arms shaking under the weight of a purple desk she painted with her own trembling hands the week before cancer stole her voice. Pine-scented wind whipping tears you swore you'd never let strangers see. When suddenly the entire lake explodes in red and blue strobes, and two Larimer County deputies step out of their cruisers asking why a father carrying his daughter's rainbow easel is being reported as a possible domestic disturbance in progress. I'm Nathaniel James Whitlock, 51, former senior partner at Whitlock and Associates in Denver. Now just a man trying to keep his 12-year-old daughter Ava Grace breathing after we buried Elise 8 months, 3 weeks, and 5 days ago. And that twilight the loons on Crystal Haven Lake were singing their morning song when Beverly Margaret Langford, 66, president of the Silver Pines Waterfront Association, decided the color purple was a threat to property values. I'm cradling Ava's easel like it's the last piece of Elise still warm. Lake water lapping soft against the pilings my grandfather drove by hand in 1958, when Beverly's white Range Rover slides up the gravel like a shark cutting water, clipboard glowing under her porch light like some unholy scripture, voice slicing through the cricket chorus. Mr. Whitlock, you are in direct violation of Covenant Section 9.4.b. Visible non-conforming children's furnishings from navigable waterway sightlines. $300 immediate fine. Plus your moving truck has exceeded the 48-hour temporary parking window by exactly 71 hours, 37 minutes, and 12 seconds. Lien proceedings begin at sunrise. Children's furnishings. The desk Elise refinished while on steroids that made her hands swell like balloons. The easel where Ava mixed her first masterpiece at 4 years old and Elise cried, because that's my heart on canvas. And this woman who's never buried a spouse wants them hidden because they disrupt her Instagram feed of beige boats and beige lives. 8 months earlier, I held Elise's hand in a university hospital room that smelled like bleach and broken futures. Watched the monitors flatline while Ava stood in the corner clutching her notebook like a life raft. Watched my little girl who once asked why the sky was blue and then argued with NASA's website for 3 hours straight go silent, completely silent, for 193 days straight. Our Cherry Creek house became a mausoleum. Elise's coffee mug still on the counter with lipstick on the rim. Ava's bedroom door, closed like a tomb. Every corner screaming her absence until I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't be the father Ava needed. So I loaded my 2021 Ford F-150 with everything that still smelled like Elise's vanilla candles and drove north until the GPS said Crystal Haven Lake. Until I pulled into the cedar cabin my grandfather bought with Korean War separation pay. The one place Elise always said felt like God's living room. I figured the water would baptize us clean, figured the loons would sing Ava back to life, figured the third stair that still squeaks like it's telling secrets would remind her how to laugh again. Day 1 Ava stood at the water's edge, toes curling in sandy mud, whispering, "Mommy would love the way the light hits the ripples." And I felt hope. Real hope, for the first time since the funeral. Day 2 Beverly Langford appeared like a plague in Talbot's slacks, marching down my driveway with her inspection team, 2 retired busybodies who looked like they'd rather be playing mahjong, measuring tapes swinging like a guillotine, demanding I cover Ava's swing set, because primary colors constitute visual pollution, threatening daily fines when I explained we'd just lost Elise and maybe grant us 30 days of grace, sneering that personal tragedy does not suspend covenant enforcement. And I swear the lake itself went dark, like even the trout were holding their breath. That's when Ava, in her faded butterfly pajamas, stepped onto the porch clutching the leather-bound notebook Elise gave her for detective missions, looked Beverly dead in the eye and said, "Mommy always said people who need rules to feel big are usually scared of being small." Beverly's face went the color of spoiled Merlot, clipboard trembling like aspen leaves in a storm, and something ancient woke up inside me, something that had been sleeping under grief and paperwork and funeral casseroles, because my little girl just drew first blood without raising her voice, and the war for our sanctuary had officially begun. The next 55 days were a masterclass in weaponized passive aggression. Beverly went full KGB, 6:12 a.m. drive-bys in her Range Rover photographing Ava's bicycle from 15 angles, violation notices delivered by certified mail that cost more than the fines themselves, $125 for dock stain 1 shade 2 teal, $400 because Elise's wind chimes exceeded acceptable decibel levels during migratory bird season, $750 because Ava's art drawing on the porch railing was visible from the community kayak launch. She got the sheriff out 4 times, once because Elise's upright piano made unauthorized emotional resonance when Ava played Moonlight Sonata for the first time since the funeral, once because our moving truck lingered 71 hours instead of 48, once because someone reported suspicious packages that turned out to be Ava's new watercolor set, once because Beverly herself called in a welfare check claiming the child appears emotionally neglected, possible depression, possible hoarding. Every morning I'd wake to fresh hell. Mrs. Chin's ceramic flamingos mysteriously relocated to my dock with fine notices zip-tied to their necks. Mr. Delgado's boat trailer ticketed 21 times in 8 days. The Ramirez children banned from the community beach because their sandcastles altered natural shoreline contours. Beverly weaponized grief like a black belt, spreading rumors at the clubhouse Sunday brunch that I was unstable, that Ava needed professional intervention, that Denver people were importing urban dysfunction into our pristine retreat, and I felt the lake turning from sanctuary to prison, felt the cedar walls closing in, felt the ghost of Elise screaming in the wind chimes. But here's the thing about grief. It either kills you or forges you into something unbreakable, and Ava chose unbreakable. One night, I found her asleep at the kitchen table, head pillowed on a stack of HOA financial reports, highlighter stains on her cheeks like war paint, notebook open to a page titled Operation Mommy's Justice. She'd taught herself corporate law from YouTube videos and Cornell Law Archives, discovered the Silver Pines Waterfront Association had missed annual reports for 2021, 2022, and 2023, corporate status automatically revoked by the Colorado Secretary of State, meaning every fine, every rule, every threat Beverly had issued since Ava was 9 years old was legally void. Just expensive confetti printed on HOA letterhead. But Ava wasn't done. She'd created color-coded timelines linking Beverly's $68,000 kitchen remodel to a community drainage emergency, approved when only her 3 cronies attended the vote, found payments to Langford Landscape Consulting LLC that matched Beverly's new wolf range down to the penny, traced $89,400 in missing dues straight into offshore accounts that smelled like Chanel No. 5 and desperation. We started quiet, built a resistance the way Elise used to organize hospital fundraisers. Mrs. Chun brought shoeboxes of violation notices dating back to 2019. Mr. Delgado had 4K security footage of Beverly trespassing at 3:17 a.m. to measure grass height. With a Home Depot ruler, Jim Callahan, retired Air Force Master Sergeant 3 cabins down, became our first ally after Beverly fined his granddaughter for chalk drawings of rainbows that constituted unauthorized permanent markings. Ava interviewed neighbors under the guise of a summer research project about lake ecosystems. Kids trust kids. Adults spill everything to a 12-year-old with pigtails and a clipboard. And suddenly we had 26 families, 55% of the community, ready to salt the earth where Beverly's empire stood. Beverly smelled blood, went full scorched earth. Emergency $4,100 special assessment for critical peer reinforcement that somehow only fixed her private dock. Community newsletter calling us problematic newcomers destroying generational wealth. Anonymous calls to Colorado CPS claiming Ava was living in emotional squalor. Even tried to block our emergency homeowner meeting with a temporary restraining order arguing minors lack standing to participate in petition drives. Emotion Ava. Shredded with Supreme Court precedent she found on Google Scholar and emailed to Judge Ramirez herself with a cover letter that read, "My mom died, but my rights didn't." Every move Beverly made just dug the hole deeper. And my little girl, my broken little girl who hadn't laughed since the funeral, was laughing now, big, bright, Elise laughs that echoed across the water like the loons had joined her choir. Because justice tastes like revenge when it's served by a kid who learned early that the world can be cruel, but truth is crueler. And truth was about to foreclose on Beverly Langford's entire existence. Saturday, November 11th, 8:57 a.m. Crystal Haven Community Pavilion packed wall-to-wall with 46 of 47 homeowners. Air thick with burnt coffee and righteous fury. Channel 9 Denver news crew in the corner, Larimer County Sheriff Deputy Morales by the door, because we'd learned not to trust peace. Retired Judge Evelyn Harlan at the podium, because Jim Callahan still had friends in high places. Beverly strutted in with her attorney Preston Whitmore for suit so expensive it probably had its own trust fund, smirking like she still held the gavel, until Ava walked to the front in her mother's sunflower dress, 3-ring binder thicker than the Old Testament, and said, "My name is Ava Grace Whitlock. My mom Elise went to heaven 8 months, 3 weeks, and 5 days ago. And Mrs. Langford has been using that to hurt people. But Mommy taught me facts don't care about your feelings, and today the facts are going to speak louder than any clipboard ever could." The pavilion went graveyard quiet. Ava opened her binder like a prosecutor at The Hague. Slide 1. Colorado Secretary of State Records, Silver Pines Waterfront Association dissolved 2022. Every fine since then legally null, void, and laughable. Slide 2. Financial timeline. $89,400 missing. Arrows pointing to Beverly's new Sub-Zero fridge, her Viking range, her marble countertops that cost more than my truck. Slide 3. Audio recording from Ava's phone. Beverly on speaker with Harbor Crest developers. Clear out the breeding families, and I'll deliver clean title by spring. Consulting fee $140,000 wired to Cayman account 4,478 to 921. Slide 4. Original 1958 deed, federal easement protecting family recreational access in perpetuity. Any development restricting children violates 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, meaning Beverly's whole deal was deader than disco. Slide 5. Handwriting analysis. Fake invoices for emergency dock repairs that never happened, all in Beverly's distinctive loops and crosses. Slide 6. Security footage. Beverly at 3:17 a.m. relocating Mrs. Chin's flamingos. Beverly at 2:49 a.m. spray painting griefer on my kayak. Beverly at 11:58 p.m. planting fake meth pipes in Mr. Delgado's shed to trigger a raid. Beverly lunged for the projector screaming fraud, voice cracking like thin ice on a warm March day, face purple as grape jelly left in the sun. Preston tried to object, but Judge Harlan shut him down. "Sit down. Counselor, the adults are talking, and right now that's the 12-year-old with the receipts." Ava never flinched, just kept going, showing the $4,100 special assessment that somehow only fixed Beverly's private dock. The community newsletter calling us emotional contaminants. The CPS reports Beverly filed using Ava's grief as evidence. Every lie laid bare like a crime scene autopsy performed by a child who learned justice from her mother's deathbed. Then Jim Callahan stood up, voice shaking with 15 years of rage. Motion to remove the entire board for fraud, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty, and being a generally terrible human being. Seconded by Mrs. Chun, Mr. Delgado, the Ramirez family, the Patel family, 44 ayes, 3 nays, Beverly's table looking like they'd just been told Santa was a lie, and the Tooth Fairy filed for bankruptcy. Deputy Morales stepped forward. "Beverly Margaret Langford, you are under arrest for theft by deception, wire fraud, conspiracy, and filing false reports with law enforcement." The cuffs clicked louder than any loon call, sweeter than any symphony, poetic as Beverly's own measuring tape wrapped around her wrists. 3 months later, Beverly lost everything in the most cinematic way possible. House sold at sheriff's auction to Mrs. Chun, who turned it into a ceramic flamingo sanctuary. Forced to move into a 1-bedroom in Pueblo West where the only water view is the Arkansas River carrying runoff from the steel mill. Harbor Crest developers settled for $1.87 million after Ava's easement research made their condo project impossible. Money redistributed to every family Beverly ever fined. Criminal trial starts April. Prosecutor says Ava's binder is the most organized civilian evidence they've ever received from someone who still needs a booster seat. "We rewrote the bylaws with Ava's input. Term limits, full financial transparency live-streamed on YouTube, children's play equipment explicitly protected under Elisa's law. Dues dropped to $175. First project the Elise Marie Whitlock Memorial Garden, sunflowers taller than Ava now, lavender for peace, roses for remembrance. Reading bench where Ava does homework and talks to her mom like she's still painting beside her. Property values up 31%, Because people want to live where a 12-year-old taught corruption what happens when you mess with a family still bleeding. Every morning I watch Ava swing on the dock. Rainbow easel catching sunrise colors Elise would have Instagrammed to death. Wind chimes singing the song Elise hummed while painting that desk purple, and I swear I feel her hand on my shoulder saying, "You did good, Nate. You kept our baby safe. You kept her fierce." Some nights Ava still cries for her mom, but now she cries swinging, crying drawing, crying laughing with Mrs. Chin's grandkids who bring her flamingo cookies. Because grief doesn't get the last word when justice is served by a kid who refused to let the world stay broken. The lake threw a party the day Beverly's moving truck left. Jim Callahan grilled 56 steaks. The Ramirez kids built a sandcastle shaped like a middle finger. Mr. Delgado played Fur Elise on Elise's piano so loud the loons joined in, and Ava stood on the dock in her sunflower dress, arms wide like she was hugging the whole world, and whispered, "We did it, Mommy. We kept your colors bright." So tell me, when someone calls the cops on a little girl moving her dead mother's piano, when they try to fine away your grief, steal your sanctuary, and sell your pain for a developer's paycheck, when they bet on a father and daughter too broken to fight back, is it really vengeance when a 12-year-old with a highlighter and a broken heart forecloses on their entire empire using nothing but truth and her mother's love? Or is it just love, the fierce, unbreakable kind that outlives cancer, outlives tyrants, outlives everything except the sound of loons singing at twilight over a lake that finally learned how to applaud? Drop your HOA horror story below, because Ava and I read every single one. And next month she's telling you how Sergeant Marcus Reed, 2 tours in Kandahar, took on the coven that tried to ban his service dog from the only dock that keeps his nightmares quiet. Subscribe, ring that bell, because sometimes the smallest voices echo loudest, and the lake remembers who tried to silence them, and sometimes justice smells like sunflowers in November.